In this video, I'm going to go over my top 6 VScode extensions. So it includes stuff like AI, icon packs, and small tools and features that make your code a lot easier to navigate through and just save you a lot of time. But before we get started, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to not miss upcoming content like this. Comment down below if you have any questions or if you have anything else that you'd like to say. But now, let's get started. We're going to start off with my favorite VS Code extension, which is going to be Codeium. And if you've seen my previous videos, then you've definitely seen this extension work because there's the most. And they actually have this website that tells you some stats. So we can see that I almost have 2,000 total completions. And then we have 208 completions in the last 8 days. And I do use this a lot, so mainly I use it for Python, but of course there's other languages like Java, HTML, CSS, React, and then TypeScript. But I want to go over what this extension actually does and allows you to do. So it's really similar to ChatGPT. You can press on Codeium over here, and then it's going to open this tab. We can ask it anything we want. So currently it's in this middleware.js file, and actually, I forgot to mention, but this is going to be the signup login template that we made in the previous video. And this is with Next.js, so just a heads up. We can go in the Codeium tab and we can really ask anything we want. So we can ask stuff like, what does this file do? How do we make it better? Or for example, let's just say, how would I add a new path to this file? So let's just say that we had a new path and we wanted the middleware file to work on that path. Then we could ask Codeium, and for some reason this is not working. So we can also use mention and then file. We can go to middleware, and then here we would ask the same thing. And hopefully this will work. So there we go. You want to add a new path to middleware.js file, and then we have some context, but the very basics here is you would just go in the match over here, and then you would add the path. So of course they made it as simple as possible to see. If we wanted to, we could just copy this, insert, and then there we go. But since I don't have that path, I'm not going to add it in there. And then also we would have to add it in the is public path, so right over here. And again, we can either copy it and then paste it, or we can just select this and insert the code. But again, I'm not going to be doing any of that right now. And my favorite feature that Codeium has is, for example, let's say that we didn't have this token expired function. I can copy this. One thing that it would do is it could create stuff for you. So when you write code, it actually reads it out, and then it could guess most of the time what you would want to create. So as we can see, it gives me a suggestion to make this function. So I can either write this out, or I could just press on tab, and it's going to show you all the different code suggestions that you can write. And let's see if there's any difference between these two. So there is a little bit of a difference, but it's going to work the exact same way. So it actually just created a variable called current time, and then it would just check between the decoded token expiration and then the current time, which is easier to read. But again, I'm just going to go back. It still works, so that's the most important part. And if you really wanted to, all you could do is also add a comment and then ask it to do something. So let's just say create a function that reads the token, right? If we press on enter, we can start writing const get token data, and then it will just give you suggestions. And as we can see here, we're going to be getting the token, and then pretty much what we're doing over here. But you can ask it to create functions, but most of the time it reads out the code that you have, and then it could guess what you want. And of course, if we press on Codeium Refactor, it's going to give us a bunch of different options that we can do. Add comments is really useful. You can clean up the code, generate unit tests, make this code strongly typed, and a bunch of different stuff, but we're not going to do any of that. Or actually, let's just press on add comments and see what this does. So we can see that we have a bunch of different comments now, and if you have a school project or anything where you would need to add comments, this is a great way to make that process a lot easier. So let's go back, and then we can also, of course, explain the code, which is something that we also could have done instead of just asking it. But again, there's a bunch of different options, which I'm not going to go over because I want to make this video as short as possible. So let's move on to the next one. And so the reason that I chose auto rename tag to be my second favorite extension is only because it's really simple, but I got really used to it, and by this point I feel like it should be a VS Code shortcut or tool or really anything. But the very basics of it is, for example, we have this parent div, so of course the opening tag is going to be a div, and also the closing tag is going to be a div. And if I change this guy to be a section now, this wouldn't change to section, so of course we would also have to change this. But what this extension allows you to do is it changes both of them for you. So if I change this to section and we go to the very bottom, we can see that this also changed to section. So let's go to a different element. For example, this ordered list. If we change this to an unordered list, this also changed to an unordered list. And if you didn't have this extension, you would have to manually do that. And it saves you a little bit of time, but over a long period of time, all that accumulates. And then again, it's a very simple extension, but it has a lot of usefulness in it. Let's say, for example, you had a React component. Of course, that was hello, for example. You can also do that, but again, we're going to get an error because there's no React component called hello that we can actually use in here. But whatever you write in here is going to be typed down in there. So of course, if you make an error here, so let's just say section, like you write it like that, you're still going to get an error, but a very useful Chrome extension. For the third extension, I decided to choose highlight matching tag because it goes very well with the previous one. So whenever you press on an element, hover or select it, we can see this yellow line under it, and that also goes with the ending tag of it. So that's what this extension does. So this is pretty much a preview of what it does. Whenever you hover, highlight, or press on an element, it's going to highlight the end or the start of it. So it's going to select the whole element, so you wouldn't have to be looking for it. For example, if we had this main and we had a bunch of different other ones, we would be able to find it very easily. So here's the ending tag for it. Same goes for the footer. We just have to go down and then we can see that it's highlighted. So again, it's very simple, but it goes very well with the previous extension. Tainwind CSS is going to have to be the next one, just because, I mean, you've seen me use it in my videos and it makes your life a lot easier. So just for example, we can see the square with the color. That's a feature that this extension does. So whenever you choose a color, so for example, if we went in here, let's add a class. We already have a class name over here. So if we wrote background, we can already see the different kind of colors and then of course their actual class. So if I press on, let's say this purple one, then it's going to write it down and it's also going to show you the actual color for it. But whenever I write really any other class, so let's just say item center, it's going to show you everything, but you just have to press on control space and then it's going to show you all the different classes that you can use. So let's just say gap, and then it's going to give us the other different options. Same goes for font. So if I write font and press on control space, it's going to give me all the other options. And I didn't really show the suggestion for Codeium, but we can see that it's already giving me suggestions. So if I press on tab, it's going to write this out. And then if I press on space, it's going to give me more suggestions and then I can accept them. But again, the auto suggestions is the Codeium extension, but back to the Tailwind. And so this extension is just going to make your life with Tailwind a lot easier. And so the next few extensions are going to be just for looks. So just as an example, Indent Rainbow, it's just going to help your code look a lot better. If we scroll down, we can see that what it does is it pretty much just highlights all the spaces, so you can kind of know sort of how your code is structured and where it is. And of course, you can change it to look different. So we have two different options. We have this lined one, or we have the highlighted, and currently have the highlighted, but of course, if there's some sort of weird spacing like this, we can see that we have this red highlighted, which means that we need to fix that, or not fix it, but it's going to help us identify where it looks weird. So let's just say that this right here was spaced out one down too many. We can easily see it by just scrolling down with our eyes and then seeing that there's two spaces instead of one. And of course, this makes it a lot easier to fix our code and make it look a lot nicer. And of course, I had to at least include one icon pack in this video. And VScode icons is definitely going to have to be my favorite because, of course, this is what it's going to look like right now. We can see that different folders have different icons and a basic folder. So if I make a folder and just name it whatever, It's going to look like this, but special folders like the app have this kind of icon. Same goes for API, fonts. We have one for helpers, models, public. Then we have stuff like the files. So for JS files, it's going to be JS. CSS is going to look like this. So it's going to be Tailwind, and then it sometimes changes. I'm not really sure what is going on in there, but right now it's going to be purple and it's going to say CSS. But of course, we have the environment file, we have Tailwind config, package.json, and all the other ones, which I'm not going to go over all of them. But if we go ahead and actually disable it, so if we go to VS Code icons and then disable that, we're going to restart. This is what it would look like. So by now I'm really used to this pack, and if I try to do anything without the pack, I can't really navigate through it. But of course, if we turn this back on, we can see how much more easier it is to see the folders, different files, and that kind of stuff. And if you like dark theme icons, then you can try icons, but of course there's a lot of different ones. So if I actually set this one to be the icon pack, this is what it would look like. So all the folders are going to be dark themed, and it's going to be a little bit more of a serious icon pack. But of course, you can go in the extension, search up icons, and there's a bunch of different ones. But again, I really recommend the VS Code icons because it just makes it a lot easier to navigate through your project. And as always, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you found it helpful, then make sure to leave a like, subscribe to not miss upcoming content like this, comment down below if you have any questions or if you have anything else that you would like to say, and hopefully see you in the next video.